transcription is going to come up, and let's get this thing going. So here we go. Tonight, this evening is a bonus video. So we've gone through 5 different projects with this environments for animation run through. We've gone from way back in the jungle all the way to the far and distant future with space stations and spaceships. This is a bonus video for you guys to think about how it is you're actually going to be displaying your artwork within your portfolios. So oftentimes I see folks, they put all this work into these paintings. They've got these great paintings and they drop it onto their website or their ArtStation page, and then it lives as just one image with no explanation. There's no story being told behind it, and no one knows exactly what it is that they're looking at. So while I've been running this class, this is my 4th time going through and doing this. I want to give you guys some tips. Normally with the in-person sessions, I ask everyone to go through and create a process book at the very end and turn in their final project within that process book. But I want to be able to get you guys focused on other things and the actual projects instead of the process book. And because of the nature of the online class, this lends itself really well to a bonus video and kind of a stepping down point from this semester. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of the process books from previous runs of this and how I've laid everything out. So the way that I like to build out these process books is within Adobe InDesign. And InDesign is not likely a program that you have touched too much or really used before, but I think that it is currently the best text handling program and large scale formatting, getting things aligned and making things look really clean program that Adobe has within their roster. And so this is me creating a 20 by 20 canvas, and then you've got it. Really what Adobe InDesign is for building books, like massive books. We're talking like 500-page George R. R. Martin, Game of Thrones, War and Peace length books. And it's really good at page layout. So layout design isn't maybe something that you've really looked at before. It's not something that's come up while you're trying to learn how to do figure drawings or to understand light and shadow and form and how to be able to render a spaceship really good. So that's what this session is about, is to give you guys some breadth and a little bit more polish for how it is that you're displaying your artwork towards the end. So what I've got here is my cover page. And as we start to scroll down, you can see the various images between this spread. So this is 220 by 20 sheets that are laid side by side. It's called a spread, that I am talking about the actual work and how I got to this end result here. So in the beginning, I'm showing my sketches. I'm showing the development process for blocking in the color. And then on the next page, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show the full width image of what that background and environment ended up looking like. The same thing, I ended up going through and making that background environment into a 2D animation. So I'm just talking about that a little bit here and where it actually ended up living at. And then from there, going into the medieval times project, showing the line work, and from the line work developing into the flat color, and then from the flat color into the final illustration. And I'm kind of doing that through each one of these pages. Within my early paintings and early environments books, I started laying out the reference images just to be able to give an idea of what my thought process was and where these ideas came from along the way. So sometimes that's good to be able to drop in the reference images as well. Really what you're looking to do here is tell the story. So these portfolios are what you're going to end up sending off as a link within an email from somebody. You're going to be linking folks out to them, and maybe before they have a video call with you, the first impression that they get from you is looking at your portfolio. And this is your chance to really be able to tell your story as an artist and a designer about what your working process and methodology looks like. And being able to show this stuff in a clear and concise way really does a wonderful job of introducing someone to your professionalism as well as your working philosophy before they ever get on a video call with you. And so that's what each one of these are. Each one of these projects within ArtStation is talking about my methodology, my work process, how I went through and built out this final idea to be able to get to my final stages within these projects. So there's my orthographic views for the spaceship, the ship development portion of it, the painting portion, close up, and then having a final reveal. And there's a lot more to this than just saying, okay, well, here's my final project, bam, that's it. I'm giving some showmanship and I'm giving some pages and some space while you're scrolling through this project to be able to appreciate the details that you might not otherwise see if you're just looking at one full-size image of this thing, right? So if we just look at the full-size pulled back version of this painting, I'm not really seeing all these incredible details that I spent a lot of time painting on the inside of this illustration. And that's really what I'm trying to slow down and show off. What are the different stages of this? What did each stage actually feel like? And within all of these, right, you notice how I'm giving a hierarchy to the images on the page. So they all flow really well, where when you get to the final image and you see what it actually looks like, it's nice and clean and there's breathability and the overall works come together to work like a booklet. And a design book is something that, advertising folks, illustration people used to have back in the day. And now we've got websites, which are just the modern online version of that. So within each one of these, again, I'm showing the sketches, I'm showing my initial phase, my blocking of the color, a detail if I like it, and then an alternative view of this stuff. I've got how I got to my final composition and the story of that. This layout design here, I like this a lot, and I'm probably going to reuse this for the one that I'm working on right now, just so that they all feel connected. So I've got the A stands for assignment. Assignment 3, Industrial Revolution. A4, 1940s and 50s, shot series. There's the Modern Times Parallax project, my least favorite one that I've ever done as an example. I did not enjoy painting those buildings at all, and I don't feel like the entire thing just came together in any kind of dramatic or meaningful way. However, brought it all together at the end and did a pretty cool painting for that particular semester. Here's another one. There we go. So the style changes a little bit within this one. We're still using the black and white as well as the squares for this. And you can see we've got a really, really clean layout design. When you see the images along paired with the text, it feels very professional. It feels like something that you'd see in a magazine. And this totally puts your work within that realm of professionalism by adding professionally laid out text along with it. It also gives you the chance to be able to tell the story of how you went through and built these renderings. There we go. We got a detail in there. And then because this one has a video with it, I'm actually able to drop the video in there. I should probably do that with the animation on the other one. But yeah, that's how I like to be able to show off my projects. And here's what that working method looks like. So when I get into Adobe InDesign, I'm going to go to File, New Document. And InDesign, for whatever reason, is the only Photoshop program that likes to start you off with something called picas. And picas are one of the weirdest measuring systems. I'm still not entirely sure what they are. You can just change that to inches, and it'll work just fine for you to be able to get a sense of what the scale is. So I like working on square ones just because I get 40 by 20 when we combine two of them together. And from there, my next step within InDesign is to always go through and go to my workspace. So under the drop down where it says workspace, I'm going to change that from book is what it likes to start you off with, and I'm going to switch it over to advanced. I like advanced because it gives me all my options on whatever I click on right up at the top here, and a whole bunch of different text modification tools, and just different ways to be able to align things. And it all just shows up in this bar very, very nicely. We get our pages, our layers, and our links. If anything ever changes within your links panel, which is right here, you're just going to go in, right click, and go to relink or relink it. And that'll update your file and make sure that if you make any changes or modifications, that those show up nicely. Yeah, so I'm glad that I went through and looked at my previous versions of these paintings or of these sheets and layouts. The next thing that I like to do is my number one rule here, where I'm always going to start, is your blue layer is going to be layer one. And within the blue layer, because in this instance, the pictures are the dominant thing, um, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start dropping in my photos on every single page and thinking about how my sketches and my line art builds into my final image within these paintings. And I can slow it down as well, right? I don't have to have this thing move quite so fast or zoom in on some of the details that I really like within this painting as well. This first one, it looks good at this scale and full size, but if you zoom in on it, the painting starts to break down a little bit, but that's okay. We were all new to environment painting, and this was our very first one out of the gate. So we're all just getting warmed up. From there, move into the medieval times one, and you can see I'm using the sequencing for showing the build on the layers. So there we go. Got the sketches there, the flat color, the initial shape, the initial shadow pass, starting to do the highlights, and then getting into the final lighting. And then the next page is going to reveal the full scene for each one of those. For my medieval times project, not sure if this one's growing on me, but it feels much more developed than the first painting along the way. So I think that this is a cool next stop within this journey and kind of turns up the volume with the painting skills a little bit more. All right. So after that, we got the 1940s and 50s, and I've got this really big layout here showing the sketches, the flat color, and then the final rendering all together. But then I wanted to give it some time to be able to show some of these final renderings on a full page. Notice how this is something I wish I'd known when I was going to art school way back in the day, was something called a hang line here. So stuff is always going to look better if you hang it from the top. If you have this weird negative space down at the bottom, you can fill it with something, but things are going to look more aligned and professional if you hang them from the top each and every time, and it looks a lot better. With some of my previous ones, I let it go all the way up to the edge over on the sides and do kind of a full bleed on the pages. But in this case, I've given a little bit of a border and a little bit of a frame, and I think that's going to help me out when I show it off within ArtStation to be able to give some pacing and some breathing room in between these two different sections. And yeah, so there's my full rendering for the Porto shot, which looks cool. I think it might be worth, this might be a good one since I've got so much detail within there to go into a new page. And so to be able to scale things up quickly within InDesign, it's a little bit backwards than any of the other Adobe programs. You're going to hold down Shift and Control at the same time to be able to scale things up. Otherwise, it's not going to give you a uniform scale, and it's going to feel pretty awkward as you start to scale things up. I still like that one little corner within my shot so much. So I'm just going to give that a little bit more space on the page and just give it, a little bit of time to be able to appreciate the depth that's going on within that paint section right there, which I don't think you would otherwise see if it's just by itself on the page. So in this case, I think that this one works a little bit better to bring in first as a full screen close-up. And then after we see the close-up, then we pull back and then we can talk about what the final actually was. And again, I've got the video within here that I'll likely drop into the ArtStation viewer if I put it on Behance or put it on my website, and the video will appear right below there. How many times have I done this before? One, two, three. Yeah, this would be my fourth one. So at this point, I've got an entire portfolio of sci-fi works that I've created. And then I've got an entire portfolio of 1940s and 50s projects to really be able to show off the breadth within that style and that genre. And yeah, and this is how you get a job. If someone says, "Hey, we're looking for something that's in the, you know, sort of set in the 1940s UPA style animation," well, hey man, I got you for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just real quick here start messing with the cover for this thing and build that out, and I think that'll help teach us a couple lessons about how these things work. So to start this, I've got hmm, let me look at the other cover designs real quick. So each one of them, I'm always using these horizontal bars. I like them kind of having a couple different images here and there across the way and sort of tiled a little bit. So let's get into the interesting meat of this piece. And I think that's it right there. So that looks pretty good. Now I can go in and start grabbing some of my other canvases, just copying those from the previous pages. Now, you notice if I grab it, I get this blue box around it. That's because it's on the first layer. And now if I just grab the edge where it's got the little white dot there, I can start to crop in on some of these shots. Within InDesign, each one of these images that you drop in there kind of comes in as a box. So you can double click on any one of your images and then scale up from the inside there. All right, I think we're starting to get something that's pretty visually interesting. Cool. I like it. All right, so we got the door going on there, and we're already a little bit over halfway through the total composition. We still got some room to make that one smaller if we decide to. Just going through in time. Got the second one now. All right, so that's getting pretty big. We don't have room for the last projects in there yet. That looks cool, showing it off that way. Oh, we got a bunch of these to show off. So I really love this one altogether. Just holding down Control and Shift to be able to scale these. That one looks cool. And I'm trying to find one now, maybe that's a little bit more simplistic, like that one. And the idea here is that we are giving people on the first page, a preview of what the rest of this stuff is going to look like and what's going to be inside of it. InDesign is pretty good at snapping along edges. Doesn't always get it exactly right. There we go. Just cropping it a little bit. That's a nice clean edge down there at the bottom. Let's get this guy just exactly right with the other one. Sometimes InDesign will zoom in way too much on your project. You're using the magnifying glass. All right, there we go. Holding down Alt, same Photoshop rules that we've got before. That section looks okay to me. After that, we got the awesome Modern Times project. It feels good, everyone in here put in a lot of work within this, this last semester. And so now you get to show off all that stuff, these images. All right, so my top is getting a little bit too big now. So I'm going to zoom all this stuff in. We can increase the size on that. That feels good to me. Drop this down. We got to make this into a square. Yeah, I did so many tall ones this semester, like poster shaped. And it just becomes a really fun visual puzzle to put these together at the very end. And I don't want to quite show everyone everything within this first page preview. I want them to actually scroll through and, take a gander at everything that I put together in here. Always thinking about the pacing of the overall shots. So that feels good to me. Open this up, make this guy bigger. That looks cool. Take these three. One, two, three. Make them bigger. That looks nice now with the oh, quite show the entire thing. I think that looks a little bit better. There we go. Now we're starting to get there. And for the Porto one, we've got this entire thing. Make it that big. Cut it down. That looks cool. Now we got one more. This one. And for that one, I'm going to make it absolutely full width of the page. Grabbing it, pulling down. And, I can't think of anything else that handles large format images that are not rastered in any kind of way as quickly as InDesign does. Dropping in just a background image here. Oh, I know what's going on. So with my two space images, they've got a border around them. Or this one does. Yeah, none. There we go. Now it's clean. Cool. So that's going to end up becoming my cover page for this next one. I really like the text layout on the most recent one I did, but I had good system and strategy going with the last one. So now that I've got my images laid out, I might end up changing these, making them smaller later on. I feel like, this one's got so much stuff in there. It can probably be shown off a little bit better than just a scan. I've tried to tone down some of the gray tones. That's a little bit embarrassing that this one's got the big shadow going through it, but there's not much I can do about that. Um, and they are sketches, but anyways, these are all kind of competing with one another, and they likely need more negative space on the page. Will make them more breathable. So these two are the starting point, and this is actually my full final rendering for all of them together. So we're just going to give some visual separation to this, and then let's make this guy full screen. And so that feels quite a bit better. This one probably can go down a little bit further just to be able to tell the story of the color blocking. It feels good to me. It's got the same color background within there. That's okay that these two guys are competing. They might be able to use a little bit more negative space between the two of them, but that's okay. I want people to appreciate what's going on there. It's a pretty good line drawing. So we're gonna let that one breathe and live there, like the pace of being able to see the close up for Porto. Full shot looks nice. Video goes there. Pacing on this one feels strong. I like being able to see all four, and then just sort of a detailed line drawing that's not completely finished, but just getting to really be able to appreciate the details in a bigger way on this one. Maybe make it a little bit larger. I think that's fine. Just to give it some reason to actually exist on the second page. That big. This feels epic. Getting to see these two pages as double page spreads that match up with one another. So that'll feel good on the scroll on the website. This is a nice clean layout for being able to display the final one. Gives us a reason for these drawings on the left-hand side to exist. I'm watching my gutter over on the left-hand side. Just making sure that these two images align, and that'll look nice and clean if you do a PDF and start scrolling through or export this as the spreads. And then we're repeating that same trick with the final image before we show off. Yeah, so final image first, and then giving the audience just one more scroll through before I do a thank you page down at the very end. So yeah, there we go. That's going to be this portfolio. So let's start adding some text, and I want to show you guys some tips and tricks with that. Now that I've got my pages pretty well laid out, I'm just going to go in and under my layers, lock both of those and create a new layer on top. That's going to be my green layer. You can go to your pages and click through there. Creating new pages works just like Photoshop, where you're selecting the new layer icon. Not too much to explain there. If you've used Photoshop before, you got it. It's not that hard. Okay, so I've got a black text or almost black that I'm using here, and let's go in and let's start building out some text explanations for what this is. So within the first page, I usually find that I'm setting up rules that are going to inform the rest of this project and this assignment along the way. There we go. That's going to be my signaler that lets us know that we're still within the same project. So each one will say assignment 1A1 along the way, or we've been doing P's this entire time. So let's do P1. That'll change as we move forward. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the text and I'm left clicking and dragging out a text box. It's dark green right now. Let's see if we can create a new layer. This might be a little bit easier to see with the blue layer. So you guys can tell what's going on. All right. So you can see that each text box has got the handles around it where I can stretch it. I can make it larger. Same handles are occurring on these other ones. So the text is living inside of a very similar box. Next up on layer 4, I'm going to always start by pulling out what I think my text is going to look like, and then I'm scaling it up in the top left-hand side under this scale drop down. Ooh, that's kind of a nice font. The Nua, I like it. And I think that it's, let's see here, pairing well enough with the other one. Here's another quick tip for you when it comes to working in InDesign. This is one I got from a great graphic design teacher at the Savannah College of Art and Design. And he explained, Peter Wong, he explained to me that lines within InDesign, they start off at 1, but that is still too visually heavy. So InDesign, oh my gosh, get out of here. InDesign allows you to be able to change the line width under 1 to like 0.5. And he always said that 0.5 is going to be a much visually lighter line on the viewer's eyes to be able to look at, and that this is going to feel nice and clean. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting to build a text hierarchy that I'm going to be able to use with the rest of my scenes. So for each one of them, title the title lockup is going to look like this. I've got the weight over on the left-hand side as kind of a stamp to grab the viewer's eyes for where it says P1. And then we've got the title, which reads immediately after. All the rules that we've been talking about when it comes to composition and flow and moving the viewer's eye through the page. That's exactly what we're doing here with text and with fonts. Let me go in and I want to look at my previous ones. I think this was the first one that I did. Very thorough. And for each one of these projects, the way that I like to lay it out originally, it said objective, approach. And then if I've got something else to say about A1, then I give it its what the description of what it is the audience is looking at. So then I say jungle plants, and then I'm just going to do a quick little blurb and write up on what the jungle plant is. So what's the objective and what's the approach? Those are two great things if you are putting together a portfolio to be able to talk about. Let's go in and do that. We're going to make this one size 18. This is still really big. Objective. And let's see if we can't use one of those previous fonts. InDesign is also good at remembering which fonts you just used. So let's go up to the top here. Berlin Sans, Objective. And I want to give that just a little bit more spacing because the letters have got so much weight. So there it is. We've got the word objective. Let's leave that there for now because I am going to end up repeating that later on. Notice how I'm creating all these different text boxes to be able to tell my story. So under there, that's a title. And now we're going to go to the body copy. So for a body copy, you want something nice and clean. Myriad Pro. With Myriad Pro, 12, 14. And that font is entirely too small. So let's go up a little bit. Let's keep it even with objective. So it's at size 18. And you're just going to do a write-up. So what do you think the objective of project one was? Welcome to the jungle. Well, the objective of project one is to learn to draw dense jungle scenes without getting lost in the details and lost in the middle of the jungle trying to draw every single leaf. There's more that I can certainly say about this, but I want to show you some other cool things that InDesign will be able to do. So within your text, once you left click and drag each time where you want your text to go, you can modify that text box scale very, very easily. So I'm just going to pull it so that it's about the same size the um, as the title and subtitle, or the title up ahead. So you can see that InDesign is pretty quick at giving you hang lines, which is pretty nice. And line these two up. Now I'm copying this over. And what did I say I had in there? Oh yeah, objective and approach. So how did I approach this? Still horrible at spelling. I'm all colors and shapes. Approach. For this project, I started with a strong concept of an elephant bridge that was built long ago. More to say on that later on, but what I'm trying to get at now is just how clean and nice this looks between these two different images, right? It's a really, really strong layout. Both of them look professional and clean with the way that we're starting to block this in. You can also do some other stuff where, let's take this guy. I'll move him over the top of all this, change his color. So paper is called white. Paper. That registered. Let's go back in. Oh my goodness, you can see how good this painting would look as a book cover. So this can always look pretty cool as well when you're finishing these pieces off. Since people are going to read from the top to the bottom. Now let's do something just a little bit different here. Center that up. And let's go with the shape. Just to be able to give it a little bit of an end. We're going to go with paper again. And just like we found with the other, with the lines where it's going to work better if we make those small, we're going to do the same thing with that. So we're just going to give it a little bit of an end ornament down there at the bottom. And now we've got a nice vertical stack for our text. That feels pretty good. Giving it a little bit of spacing. And let's grab this. It's one of these guys. Again, I'm going to go in, change them to paper. Change it to white. And just call it final. Sideways. Same amount of spacing on either side of the line to make it nice and clean. And let's find a good home for this. So right now feels a little bit awkward right over here. I think we maybe need to do this with the hang line on the other side. And there we go. That feels like pretty good placement to me. I could do it right in the middle just to be able to give it that breathability. Yeah, I like that all right. I think that works for me. Now, there's other stuff that you can go in and do. What we've just done on this first page is design a couple different things. We've got how we're going to handle the title of each one of the pages. We've got the title for each one of our text blocks, and then how we're going to handle the body copy as well as what the general size, font size for that body copy is going to be. We've got a image call out here that's vertical that we can certainly use in some of these other pages along the way too. So that's going to get used over here. We've got, some other options that we're starting to build in. So this is where the final together goes. So we'll end up putting another one of those right there. And yeah, we're starting to get some good stuff built out along the way. And we've just figured out a lot with this first layout. Now, where illustration and painting majors kind of get messed up is we feel like we need to fill every single page with some kind of pattern or texture or bright color. And what I'm trying to do here is make sure that the images on the page become the most important thing and that they're not fighting against the background in any kind of big way. I could show you some examples from previous projects for this where yeah. So like this one, I've got the blue in here, but I'm still giving it a little bit of a frame and a little bit of separation before the painting actually starts. This is starting to lose the background images in sort of a big way, so this likely needed to be darker for them to stand out more successfully. I think this one works, but I'm still leaving myself that white space for the text and the font and the explanation down at the bottom. This one's got a little bit of a colored bar down at the bottom of it, so there is some like whimsy that's going on within this piece, and that sort of gets me into the next thing that I want to be able to talk about. You don't want to over design every single page; it looks too busy, and avoid clashing colors or anything like that. This nice, clean, simple is going to look the best. Graphic design uses white space a lot, and we're really trying to champion the images in a clean way within each one of these layouts. Probably go in that one this way. Grab these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move them down just a little bit more. And now I'm probably going to end up writing a bit more, but that gives me just a little bit more breathing space here. And you'll have to kind of pull and push things as you start to get the text laid into each one of the pages. What I want to show you next is just another option you might not think about. So once you have got your text established and the way the text is going to look, then you can go through, get that in, get the first round placement on each one of the pages with the text. So first rule, get the images in there, get a general kind of size and scale. You're still going to be pushing and pulling things around and making sure that the image that's on the page is the most important one. So that's why I had to change these three, which were equal sized. So now we've got a staircase, and then we get back up into our larger image to be able to really champion the final picture, which is what I want people to look at instead of, the color blocking is not as important. It's fun. It was an important step in the process. There's something to say about that, but it's certainly not as important as the final image. And that's sort of what's going on here within these. This one, it's way too busy. It gets lost with how much stuff is going on this page. This is why I wanted to give just one clean call out on this section. This one by itself. So it kind of tells the story, right? We see all four of them together. This is new information for the viewer to look at for the first time. Pause, take away some of the elements to where it's nice and clean looking. Then from there, we're going to bring them into the actual final execution of this, which we don't really show that off too big. Now we're going to see that one. That brings our eye down into the big ship. And then from there, we get the full composition. I think that this is a really, really successful image flow for how it is that we're telling the story and building the information for the audience that's seeing this or the art directors for the first time. Next thing. Now, this is, in my opinion, sort of an overblown example of this. I did it a little bit too much, but with those ornaments, just like that little line that I put underneath the vertical stack for the text, you can go back and you can add other little design features and ticks along the way. So like the boxes around things, little icons, sort of page separators can all look really, really nice. It can be overdone, but just a simple box with some kind of little icon in there can look really, really cute. Character bio, any kind of icon work can be nice for this. This is competing with itself a little bit here, but that's okay. And yeah, I think this is a nice clean layout for these four images or color options, and it's got the color icon in there. So these little wingdings on the different pages can come in and help a lot to be able to tell the story also and add those little Dutch details to your piece. So here's another one that I did that's all laid out. Eve Rest, like Everest, get it? Character design. And so here's the contents for what they're going to see. Here's the 15 silhouettes, and this is the patterning that I decided to use, which is built off of her color scheme and sort of a 70s looking retro vibe. Various different color schemes for the character, 6 silhouette color variations. And from there, there's her bio page for who she is. Character expressions, and you can see I'm still using those little wingdings in a very, very small, deliberate way. Action poses for the character, and then getting into the final composition. So the line work, and then the character moving. Shoot, that kind of makes me want to go back. I could export, it's consistent enough in here. But on this one, nah, they look fine. They look like starter images, and I think that's where I want them to be. So I'll leave them there. But yeah, you can add those little wingdings, and that adds some more page flow if you need it at the very end. But for this, we want nice, clean text that helps to support the images. So when we look at this, right, from really far away and everything, the lines sort of become gray. The pictures are still what stands out on the page the most. The only piece of the text that's still standing out really is P1, and that gives you some indication of how a first-time viewer is going to read this stuff as well. I'm going to go through and keep on building out these various pages to get to the end of this. This will be on ArtStation at the very end, and you can find me on ArtStation. It's Will Moritz, Moritz, or type in Scatto.org. I'm also on Instagram at Scatto.org, which is my website. That is www.scatto.org. Scatto.org. And yeah, you're going to see this icon anywhere that you're looking for me, Scatoorg. Thank you so much for all your hard work on these projects. I hope these demos have been useful for you and that you're able to show off your work and that, the work that you did within these projects leads you to lots of money and a happy career in the future. Thanks for watching.